Nazi, come here. Cell Squad is something. Now look off the dance, man. Yo, you want something? Yeah, man. Cell Squad is. Yeah, man. Don't lock it off. Don't tell her. Guess what, Squad? Go buy a peanut from the peanut man. When him a go through in the dance, in a inbox him have everything you want. Herbs by the bud and by the stock. I like the top shell and them a shell down the bar. Watch it, mind you step on them clock. Welcome to the True Island History Channel. This is part 2 of the Nanny story. But before I proceed, please indulge us by like, sharing, and subscribing, and press the notification bell so you do not miss other episodes on the channel. And please check out many of our other historical topics that I'm sure you will find quite revealing and very interesting. And do check out the True Island Stories channel, the parent channel, where you find the real gangster-like stories and several other life topics and current curriculum in today's society. Now, we left off when we're talking about how the Maroons raised animals, hunted and grew crops. Maroons at Nanny Town and similar communities survived by sending traders to the nearby market towns to exchange food for weapons and cloth. It was organized very much like a typical Asante society in Africa. Now, from 1655 until they signed the peace treaties in 1739 and 1740, these Maroons led most of the slave rebellions in Jamaica. Yes, they did. Nanny was a warrior in her own right. She did not believe in being enslaved, and she rebelled ferociously and brought a whole nation with her in the fight for her freedom. And she also helped to free slaves from plantation. Yes, she and her gang, they raided and damaged lands and buildings held by the plantation owners. The Maroons were also known for raiding plantations for food and weapon, burning plantations flat to the ground, and leading free slaves to join their mountain communities. And it was very hard for the white slave masters and their soldiers to track them because Nanny and the Maroons knew every inch of the terrain, the rigorous terrain, the unforgiving terrain, every inch, every quarter. And it was hard for them to, the slave owners to bring up horses and dogs and climb the steep hilly cliffs, which was very slippy. So the Maroons knew how to navigate their territory, and that was a plus for them because it is said, knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Nanny was highly successful at organizing plans to free slaves. Yes, she was a master tactician. During a period of 30 years, she was credited with freeing more than 1,000 slaves and helping them to resettle in the Maroon community. Okay, let's go into the first Maroon War. By 1720, Nanny and Kwaho, sometimes called her brother, settled and controlled an area in the Blue Mountains. It was later given the name Nanny Town, and it had a strategic location overlooking Stony River, about 900 foot, 270 miles ridge, making a surprise attack by the British very difficult, as I earlier reiterated. Nanny became a folk hero among the Maroons and the slaves. While the British captured Nanny Town on more than one occasion, they were unable to hold it because guerrilla warfare was very predominant in those days. They were in the wake of numerous guerrilla attacks from the Maroons. The Maroons waged a successful war against the British colonial forces over the course of more than a decade. When Nanny Town was abandoned, the Winward Maroons under the command of Nanny moved to the new Nanny Town. Between 1728 and 1734, during the First Maroon War, Nanny Town and other Maroon settlements were frequently attacked by the British colonial forces. They bombarded them, and they had a lot of guns, So they were kind of superior with their military force. They wanted to stop the raids and believed that Maroons prevented settlement of the interior. According to some accounts, in 1773, many Maroons of Nanny Town traveled across the islands to unite with the Leeward Maroons. In 1734, Captain Stoddart attacked the remnants of Nanny Town, situated on one of the highest mountains in the island, via the only path available. But he walked with fork, and he found it porridge. It was very difficult for them. He found it steep, rocky, and difficult. as again earlier reiterated, and not wide enough to admit passage of 2 persons abreast. In addition of the use of the ravine, resembling what Jamaicans call a cockpit, the Maroons also used decoys to trick the British into ambushes. A few Maroons would run out in the view of the British and then run in the direction of the fellow Maroons who were hidden, and then they would attack them from all sides and sending them scurrying. After falling into these ambushes several times, the British retaliated with a force to be reckoned with. According to planter Brian Edwards, who wrote his narrative half a century later, Captain Stoddard found the huts in which the niggers were asleep and fired upon them so briskly that many were slain in their habitations. However, recent evidence show the number of Windward Maroons killed by Stoddard in his attack on Nanny Town was in its single digits. Liar, liar, pencil, fire. The Windward Maroons' success against a much superior and better armed enemy was a testament to the great skill of their leader, Nanny. One of their advantages was their long-range communications capability. They pioneered the use of Kowan called a beng, and that came straight from Africa. Yes! The horn, with a drill hole in one end, was used for long-range communication. Its signals allow marine lookouts to communicate over great distances, and they were not understood by the British, who had no similar communications capability. Nanny's troops were masters of camouflage as well. The soldiers were so proficient at their disguising their location that the British would circulate tales of trees in the forest becoming alive and cutting one's head off. Yes, her legend was very brutal and mystical, because it is said Nanny had the ability to catch bullets between her teeth. Besides the physical aspect of camouflage, the Maroons became experts in slowing their breathing so as not to reveal their presence to someone in their vicinity. The Maroons also developed ways of creating stealthy fires that were not readily visible. The Windward Maroons were innovators in guerrilla warfare. They used surprise, the knowledge of the terrain, and cleverly chosen positions in their fight against the British. Their village was located in a rugged territory with only one way in. So, if you were not invited and you went in there, then chances are 100%. The only way you're going to come out is if you were carried out or buried up there. That one way in was a narrow path that was only wide enough for one person. Soldiers trying to attack a raid in a single file was easily ambushed. Come. To heighten the enemy's fear, Nanny's forces never killed all the attacking forces. You know what she did? She always allowed a remnant to live and return to the base to relay the story and horror of their encounter. Now, let us talk about the treaty. When the British signed the treaty with Kodja in 1739, this success allowed them to offer a less favorable treaty to the Windward Maroons. Representatives of British governor in Jamaica signed a treaty with the Windward Maroons in 1740. Between the colonial authorities and Quaho, who later became one of the leaders of Crawford Town, this treaty between the colonial authorities and Quaho Maroons made no mention of how much land would be allocated to Crawford Town. Now, as a result, a number of disputes occurred between planters and the Maroons of Crawford Town, and later succeeding towns of Charlestown and Scots Hall. In response, the Assembly of Jamaica often tried to resolve the land disputes in favor of the Maroons in order to keep peace, because they did not want no smoke. In addition, later that year, there was a separate land grant with Nanny and the Maroons of Nannytown, which granted Nanny and the people now residing with their and their heirs a certain parcel of land containing 500 acres in the parish of Portland. This land patent consists of 500 acres, 2.4 kilometers, of land granted by the government to the Maroons of Nannytown under a separate 1740 document. The rebuild of Nannytown, later called Moortown, was built on that location. In 1781, the Assembly agreed to purchase another additional 500 hectares from neighboring planter Charles Douglas to increase Moortown's communal land to 1,000 hectares. The new Nanny Maroon towns, like those of Kodja and Quaho, most people now today call him Kwaku. And there's a saying, a favorite moniker by Jamaica, Can't catch Quaco, you catch him short. Now, for those who do not understand that, every Jamaican understand that, but for those who are listening that knows not much of our Jamaican history, that means if somebody does you something or you're trying to catch somebody and you catch a friend of his or a relative, then they would get the same treatment that was expected to be meted out to you. So, can't catch Quaco, catch him, shot. Okay. The new Nanny Town Maroons, like those of Koja and Quaho, agreed not to harbor new runaway slaves, but to help catch them for bounties. Now, that, in those days and even today, is still looked upon as sellout. And that is the same way how slavery from Africa to the West started, because we ourselves as black people, tribal wars were raging back in those days, and the captured would be enslaved and sold off as slaves to come to foreign lands that they did not know about. So in itself, we were the creator of our own demise. Some people might fail to admit it, but the truth is the truth. So said the Guru. The Maroons were also expected to fight for the British in case of an attack from French or Spanish. In signing treaties with the Maroons, the British not only made a truth with troublesome foe, but also enlisted that foe in capturing runaway slaves. The colonial authorities initially recognized two Maroon towns only, Crawford Town and Koja Town, later to be renamed Trelawney. Now, many of you guys did not know that. Eventually, there were 5 Maroon towns in the 18th century. 1, a compound town. 2, Trelawney Town. 3, Charlestown. 4, Scottstown. And 5, Nanny Town, later became known as Moortown, living under their own chiefs with a British supervisor in each town. In exchange, they agreed not to harbor new runaway slaves, but to help catch them for bounties. As I said, sell out. But maybe it was their only way of survival. You know what I mean? Save some for peace instead of raging war and everybody get exterminated. But a sellout is a sellout. Any way you want to look at it, the Guru has spoken. We've come to the end of part 2 of the Nanny story, our national hero, our beloved Nanny. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe, and press that notification bell so you do not miss another story on the True Island History channel. And please do check out the rest of our content, and don't forget to check the True Island Stories channel for the real Keckling, the gangster Keckling, and several other curriculum in today's society. Okay, you have a wonderful day, and join us for part 3 coming up soon on the True Island History channel.
Nazi, come here. Cell Squad is something. Don't look off the dance, man. Yo, you want something? Yeah, man. Cell Squad is. Yeah, man. Don't lock it off. Don't tell her. Guess what, Squad is? Go buy a peanut from the peanut man. When him a go through in the dance, in him box him up everything you want. Herbs by the bud and by the stock. I like the top shell and them a shell down the bar. Watch it, mind you step on them clock.